welcome to Final Fantasy XIII-2. After the great mystery that was FFXIII-2, I was going in on yellow alert, right? Yellow alert. I am very cautious now. It was so full of enthusiasm and excitement into 10-2, and now we're in 13-2, and 10-2 was And I was like, okay, let's take a yellow alert. But so far, so good. I don't know what's going on. They seem to have done a far better job of creating some connective tissue between the two games to understand what's going on. It follows a few years, 3 years after the events of 13. I'm going to get 10 and 13 confused. I'm so sorry. I've just done 10-2. Where we find our wonderful Sarah, Lightning's sister, having a bizarre dream, a prophetic dream, or is it in fact just a message in a bottle? What a ridiculous Final Fantasy 16 opening to this game. Actually, like, first time in a long, long time I've seen any of my viewers go, this is kind of making me motion sick. It is over the top, wild, completely ridiculous. We go to Valhalla. If you forget the end of 13, we ended up with Lightning, Vanille, and Fang. Names, besides Lightning, I had totally forgotten about Vanille and Fang. Falling from the cocoon and creating a big crystal into a crystal spire, and it became encased in a crystal spire. They like turned into the crystal that holds Cocoon up in the sky. And everybody else, well, not everybody, but a lot of people came down to, I forget the name, I think it's called Pulse, the actual planet itself, to live down there. And they're now encased in there. But they believe they're still alive. And now we find 3 years later, Lightning seems to be the guardian of Valhalla. She is the only hero there. Wherever Valhalla is it the afterlife, you know, in classic Valhalla style, or is it something in the future? We're messing with time travel. This game feels like it's taken and borrowed a lot of inspiration from Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite games of all time, so okay, I'm in. I'm into this premise. But we find Lightning battling to the bitter death with someone called Caius, a purple guy. And he's very angry and bitter, and he just wants oblivion, is what he says. Everything, it's all going to end in oblivion anyway, so I cannot be bothered waiting. It's a very sort of, whatever, throwaway line for the intro of the game, just to set the scene, and wants to destroy everything now. That's kind of the motivation that we know. And in doing so, he summons, like, Bahamut, and Lightning fights Bahamut, and she's riding a horse in gravity-defying ways, and doing all kinds of stuff, when suddenly from the skies, the heavens crack, and here comes our hero, Caius, Lightning, and Noel. Noel, in tradition of the FF games, where suddenly Derek appears and Cecil, these powerful, heroic characters suddenly plunge themselves into the thick of the storyline, alongside Snow and Fang and Lightning is Noel. Here's Noel. I don't like Noel. Not just because of his name, but Noel, it very much reminds me of Squall from FF8. He's very, like, nonchalant. He's so cool. Oh, my God. I feel like I'm not knocking all of Japan by any means, but certainly in terms of the FFs, Japan just does not seemingly, at least for me, know how to write very cool characters. And especially in Final Fantasy. Like, every time they introduce someone they think is, like, really cool, and maybe it does appeal more to a Japanese audience, they kind of just have these arrogant, emo, moody teenagers just exist, that even in the face of really interesting things, and as I now have teenagers, they don't respond this way in any way. Maybe they will in a few years. That'd be quite scary. But here comes Noel, and Noel doesn't know where he is. He's like, what the hell? Where are we? And Lightning tells Noel, you need to travel back through time. I'm going to open a time gate for you. You need to travel back through time, and you need to get Sarah, her sister, to her. You must connect us both again. And she throws, essentially, Noel through the time gate, which takes us to the past, which is 3 years after the cocoon crystallization happened. And then, voila! Sarah wakes up. So here we are. We're now on the surface of Pulse. We've got a nice little village where a lot of our characters from FF13 are hanging around, including Snow's gang. And they're on like a nice beach life. There's lots of cats. They're having fun. They're doing stuff. And suddenly Noel appears along with a bunch of creatures and monsters have arrived. And now there's fiends that are like plaguing the area. Now we have to battle and do things like that. Which reintroduces us to the battle system. I remember it being very good. It's a cross between 12. It's like an advancement of 12 system where there's a level of auto battle to it that you can preset up, and it has stances called paradigm shifts that you can change how the characters interact with enemies in terms of building a stagger bar and actually utilizing that stagger bar because you get bonus damage, but you can also advance the multiplier. Very cool. I remember this system a little bit, and it's coming back to me slowly but surely, as this system was very good. I remember when we fought some really difficult bosses, is having the team constantly shift and make our own paradigms that they could utilize, and then you could talent spec them into that. So if there's like Ravager increases the stagger bar and the multiplier, but doesn't do great damage. But Commando does good damage, especially during a stagger window. So I've already decided that for now, at least Sarah will be our Ravager. So I spec'd her into there. So Ravagers do spell casts. So she's learned a bunch of spells. And our wonderful friend Noel, I'm going to keep calling Neil. Noel is going to be our Commando, at least for now. And we'll see what other characters join us later. Because that's the big question. Where are the other characters? Now, Vanille and Fang, we know are in the crystal. Snow is dead/missing. I was really looking forward to seeing Snow again. There's no mention of Hope at all. He pops up like in a cutscene, so it's just like, oh, there was Hope was there, but there's nobody like, where's Hope? What's he doing? I can't even remember what happened to the Hope of Ender 13. He might be dead. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like that character. So whatever. But Snow is not here, and it's really vague. They bring up Snow a huge amount. They're like, now Snow's not here. Snow's away. Snow isn't with us right now. And then there's pointers and implications that Snow died, but they won't tell you what happened until about an hour or so in, when they reveal that Sarah really wanted Lightning's blessing for their marriage. Like, she did give it. She said congrats, but she's torn up before about where Lightning could be and what's going on. So Snow has gone on a personal adventure to seek out Lightning, and that was a long time ago, and he's just never returned. Snow went off. He went off to get cigarettes. He went off to get some milk, and he's just never returned, and he's just gone. Not confirmed dead, but he's just gone. However, the story then reveals that we're going to be jumping through time. And we can change the outcome of history. Because Noel actually comes from 700 years in the future, where Cocoon is gone. Where's it gone? Don't know. But Cocoon is gone. In his time, he like sees Cocoon. He's like, oh my god, this is like Cocoon's here. And then when Cocoon disappears, because we've got these like temporal bubbles that are forming everywhere, where time, it's like a pocket of a different period of time exists in the local area, and in one of them, Cocoon is gone, and that happens to us in front of us. It just disappears, and he's like, oh, that's from my time. Cocoon's not there anymore. It's like, oh, okay. So we're still piecing this all out to get it together, but so far, that gives the Chrono Trigger thing, because we enter the time gate, and then we get our sort of hub world, our map screen. Instead of it being different locales on Pulse, it's actually different time periods where we could jump around to. So the first level I went to was actually Cocoon, but 5 years after the fall, so 2 years after our current time. We'll use where Sarah is as present day. We're now jumping years in the past, into the future, a couple of years into the future, and we're no doubt going to go several hundred years, because Noel's from several hundred years in the future, and figure out all this out. And what I'm really hoping, which will engage me a lot, because it is the Chrono Trigger style, is to be able to be like, oh, if we go back in time here, or we go forward or we go back in time here and do something here, then we go forward in time and we'll see the results of that immediately. And you could set things in motion in the past, which will then affect the future, especially when it comes to side content. Now, I'm a little wary of that. There was one example side mission that they gave you in the opening sort of beach area, which was just to find a medical kit. After the attack, after the assault, after Noel arrived and these monsters arrived, you have to find a medical kit. This was kind of a pain in the backside, because it did reveal that you can get a side quest that you actually can't do yet. I don't like that particularly. Like, it's good with ongoing side quests. You know, you've got to collect 20 things from around the world. Okay, I understand that's going to take a while. But this one is like, hey, somebody had the medical kit on the beach and people need treatment. Can you go and find it for me? And the area that it was actually in, so I got the side quest and then I went, obviously, searching for it. Makes sense. But as it turns out, it was actually in an area that at the time was inaccessible until you progressed more of the story. It was in the local area, but those areas were blocked. And then when you did a couple more story triggers after picking up the side quest, then those areas uncovered, now you can go and get it. So something to bear in mind, it's always, I think if it's a basic side quest, it should be kind of doable then, so you get the completion of it. But it's showing that there are more side quests in that area, but they don't exist yet. So we'll definitely be returning, which is a good sign. We're going to be returning. We're going to coming back because something we do in the future or the past is going to affect here and things are going to change. And we'll see how that goes. So far, I'm in. The animations are whatever. I don't care. Some people like modding about the animations. It's an old game. I'm not bothered. What I'm talking about, what I like is the gameplay. The gameplay seems pretty solid so far and a compelling story. That's good. So far, Sarah and... protagonists, Sarah and Noel, not my favorite, right? Not my favorite. I can't remember what my team was at the end of 13. Maybe Bex can look it up, but I don't think it involved Sarah. I seem to remember having Lightning, Snow, Fang, and somebody else involved. Maybe Vanille. I think Vanille was our spellcaster. Something like that. I don't think I used Hope. I might have done. But not Sarah. Was Sarah even playable in the other one? I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, not my favorite. Especially because Sarah comes across as just bone-crushingly naive. And Noel is just the worst. He's just the absolute worst. We meet Noel at late the day before. Then we go to bed. Then we wake up. And 10 minutes after we wake up, Noel is dropping massive criticism on her and Snow's relationship. I'm like, brother, I met you like an hour ago. You know what I mean? We fought together. We were getting married. He's off to seek out my sister. Like, my husband is doing crazy things. You've been here 20 minutes, and you're like now dropping these like, well, is it right that he leaves you alone? You're lonely now. It's like, shut up, bro. Like, you've no idea. But she's like, I guess so. And it's like, no, that's not how any human being would possibly react to this in any way, shape, or form. So I'm hoping that doesn't become a real pain in the ass with these characters, because their dialogue and their actions are just like, ugh. That would be my put-off, unless I can just replace them. Outside of cutscenes, I just replace them with other cooler, more interesting people. We'll see how that goes. But a solid start to this so far, so mark this in your diaries if I'm back here in a couple of TDPs going, oh my god, this sucks. Maybe. And I certainly don't promise, especially as we just saw that Darkest Dungeon's getting another DLC. And a good reason to go back there, but maybe before we do our Guild Wars 2 stuff, would be a good thing. So, I'll see you tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Big kisses. Bye, guys.